Everybody, good morning. Welcome to UCast. I have the Kyle Seidel with me today. I'm excited to have him. We're just looking at Mark chapter 5 today in the UC reading. So if you want to read along with me or just listen to me read the soothing voice that I have. So Mark chapter 5. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. The man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs, or 9 day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When they saw Jesus, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send him out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue rulers named Jairus came there. Seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowded against you," his disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." While Jesus was still speaking, some men came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Ignoring what they said, Jesus told the synagogue ruler, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue ruler, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him, and he put them out. He put them all out. He took the child's father and mother and disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talo koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and walked around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this and told them to give her something to eat. So it's a pretty big chapter. A couple of awesome stories of just Jesus interacting with people in their lives and meeting them in their needs. So, Kyle, what did something stick out to you? What would you like to talk about?
Honestly, like right when the chapter Jesus raises a dead girl and heals a sick woman,
Yeah.
That's one that stuck out to me because when people will go out talk saying like, "Oh, Jesus can't do nothing."
I mean, yeah, people in this day and age, right? Because we have like modern medicine and everything like that. We don't as much rely on solely God, right? It's not just, we don't know anything. It's in God's hands. You know, a lot of times when it comes to something more, you know, more a bigger thing that we don't have common cures for, people, you know, will pray to God and will try that. But if you're just, you know, I think of like Little House on the Prairie times, right? We would tell people at the camp I worked at, if you get a splinter in those days, like if it got infected, they didn't have the antibiotics that we have now. That was life or death. And so if you got a splinter, you are praying to God, like, please don't get infected. You know, so that way you can, you know, have a good life. And so here, these people, they didn't have modern medicine. And so whenever anyone was sick or doing something, they, you know, finding this man, you know, the son of God who's healing people, they're going to do what they can to, you know, try and be around him and, you know, kind of like the woman who touched him, you know, just get his power and, you know, believing in him. And I think that's a big part of why at the end, you know, he gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this, right? That's kind of a weird thing. Like, why doesn't he want to tell people? But I think he wants people to come to know him on their own journey, rather than just like, hey, look at the cool things I did. You know, rather, so it's not quite the selfishness that we could come to. Because if I had a friend who could cure me anytime I hurt myself, you know, I'm going to grab them and I'm going to go, you know, do something dumb and be like, hey, cure me. You know, I'm going to learn how to skateboard or something. So that way, every time I fall down, I'd be like, hey, save me, and they'll do it. But that'd be pretty interesting thing. But yeah, it's a good point about just, you know, we don't quite believe Jesus has the power that, you know, they did back then, because they would see these things. And nowadays, if we hear about somebody getting healed or doing something, you know, it's not typically, you know, oh, thank you, God. It's, you know, thank you, modern medicine. Or even if it is a God thing, we're very skeptical of it because of the different, you know, cultures around healers and stuff. We don't really want to attribute that to God. So yeah, interesting thing. Well, my point, kind of with the first part of it, unless did you have anything else to say about the healing part, Kyle? I didn't want to cut you up. Okay.
Oh,
Um, I just think it's interesting that this, you know, demon possessed man goes and, you know, he's out in the woods, he's doing all these horrible things. And I kind of think of it as like that awkward person, probably kind of me, like in high school, where you have that person like, yeah, you're fun to hang out with, but like not really. Like everybody knows they have a problem and we just kind of push them outside of society, right? You just kind of push them away. And here Jesus comes and he, you know, fixes all that and makes him a normal person and able to rejoin society. You know, but because he, you know, being Jesus, cares for people outside of society like we should, more than we do, unfortunately. But, you know, he fixes the problem. The guy is not cutting himself and being crazy anymore. And, you know, I the people's reaction to him is to kick Jesus out of town, right? Like, get out of here. And, you know, just when that's what, to me, that's what Jesus does. He upsets the status quo. And I think that that's really important, because we see people and we see, you know, how well they're dressed, their bank accounts, how well they're put together, you know, all that stuff. But Jesus sees them as who they are, right? And if we can do that more, be more like Jesus like that, I think that'd be really good. And just, you know, just seeing people, right? Because I mean, yeah, I don't know about you, Kyle, but for me, like, it's hard sometimes when people don't see me as who I am, or if I don't see somebody else, right? If I see somebody else and they're not acting the way I think they should, you know, it's kind of hard to take a step back and go,
I get that.
no, they're okay. Yeah. So
I'd honestly would be shocked if be like, sure. Back then if I ever saw somebody do that, I'd be shocked. But right now, in this time period we're living in right now,
yeah.
what probably
Yeah.
some
Yeah, it'd be an interesting thing to see, right? Because yeah, that's, you think of the doubting Thomas story where Thomas was like, unless I see the nail holes in Jesus's hands, I'm not going to believe it's him. And then poof, Jesus shows up. And we're in that phase, right? We can't see these things that Jesus did. We have to believe. We have to have the faith and the hope that comes with that. And yeah, it's harder at times because we can't see it, but see it so clearly. But if we trust him more, we can start seeing him more, and I think that's a really important thing. So, all right. Well, thanks, Kyle, for hanging out with me. Yeah. So it's kind of a surprise. Hey, I need to get somebody to fill in for a good old UCast on the morning. So yeah, it's Monday night. So if you're in the Grow class, we will see you tonight at that. But other than that, we will see you guys later. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.